Alright, everybody. It is time for the next run of the event. The amazing MChan338 doing The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Switch. Let's get it, MChan.
Alright, what's up everybody, and welcome back to No Glitches Allowed. First off, before I begin, I just want to thank everybody for raising $900 for this event to get this run into the event. It is a lot of money to be running this game, and I'm very excited to be showcasing this game. This is one of my favorite speed games as of 2019, and the other thing to mention is that this run starts off with an RNG manipulation setup, as I need to start the game at a specific second and then start the run at a specific time. So I'm going to need to focus on doing it. And then I will explain how the RNG manipulation works when the run begins. But right when time begins, I do need an audio cue in order to know what seat I'm on. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and perform it right now. And while I'm doing this, this would be a good time for the commentators to introduce themselves.
Hello, I am Sorty VTV. I've played this game once or twice in my life. But I speedrun this category as well from time to time, and yeah, glad to be here.
Hey everyone, I'm Zintrothan. I'm an LADX speedrunner. M10 called me on here to watch the run and basically make comments about various differences between the two games. As you know, the Switch is a remake of the Link's Awakening for the Game Boy,
Right.
and the DX was a version that came out a few years afterward for Game Boy Color.
3, 2, 1, go! Alright, we're good. Okay.
All right.
So
So M-Chan, RNG manipulation, is that not a glitch?
yeah, that's well, that's one of the many controversial things that people debate on when it comes to glitchless. But basically, by starting the game at a specific time, then you manipulate two major factors of RNG, which is the Dungeon 4 puzzle as well as the egg puzzle. Those are completely random. But by starting the game at the specific time, then you know exactly what your pattern is. Anyway, this is Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch, the 2019 remake from the original Link's Awakening / Link's Awakening Deluxe from the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. And as you can see right away, you can see that this version has tons of qualities of life from the Game Boy versions. So a lot of people who are familiar with speedruns of Link's Awakening in general are familiar with LADX, mostly, and just get ready to throw all that knowledge out, because none of the knowledge from LADX applies to this version of the game at all.
This game was
very different.
Yeah, this game was completely brand new, built from the ground up. By Grezzo, who I believe did the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask remakes on the 3DS, if I remember correctly. So yeah.
One of the biggest differences that everyone might have noticed if you've played the Game Boy version is the music is like considerably updated.
Yes, and the music is beautiful in this game. If you have any interest in this game and want to try it out, I highly recommend it, if anything, just for the music. But, yeah, if you're not familiar with this game franchise, or I guess this specific game within the Zelda series, rather, you'll notice some odd peculiarities. You'll notice some Mario enemies, some Mario characters throughout the game. There's even a brief appearance of Kirby that unfortunately we won't see in this run. or technically anti-Kirby. Uh, and it's just from where this game was originally made a long time ago, when Nintendo was a lot less concerned about keeping all their properties kind of in their own little world. So we'll see some chain chomps, we'll see some Goombas, and you'll be like, why is that in a Zelda game?
That was a good boy,
Yeah.
especially in this one. He's a pain in LADX. Nobody likes Bow Wow in
I mean, he's still a pain here, but more to that later. So we got our sword, and then now here we are in the Mysterious Woods. And normally, if you're familiar with original speedruns, there's a trick called Moblin Boost that does not apply to this at all. So we do have to go through this entire Mysterious Woods sequence where we have to get the toadstool from the back of the log cave, and then go to the end of the forest and trade in the mushroom for magic powder in order to get through the end of Mysterious Woods. Another difference that you're seeing here, or at least another commonly asked question, is why is the game in German? And generally in a lot of speedruns, German tends to have more text than English. But here in this game, if you mash B, then the text advances through boxes, and German just happens to have the fewest amount of text boxes. So you save about 40 seconds over the course of the run by changing your Switch console to German.
We go faster with German efficiency.
Yeah, and no need to buy a German exclusive copy of the game.
Yeah, all fortunately baked into the Nintendo Switch. And it's also a great opportunity to learn some German.
Yeah, there are some names that are pretty funny in German in this game.
Oh yeah.
This here that we just rescued is Terran, who is definitely not Mario, who got turned into a Tanuki. Whether or not that means he's related to Tom Nook, I don't know. But...
I was just noticing one of the other big differences between this and LADX is that the overworld is all just one big map. You don't have to transition between screens.
Yeah, there are still screens though, but there's not as much screen transitions. So
it just makes the game feel a lot more fluid.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, that does eliminate a lot of the tricks that were once possible in LADX. So we got the key to enter the first dungeon, but before we do that, there's a few things that we need to do. Wow, I've never seen that before. So the first is going to the trendy game. The trendy game used to be very easy, but here they change the trendy game quite a bit. It's not that bad in this version because we're just getting the Yoshi doll, but there is the off chance where the Yoshi doll will sometimes get off the crane. But we got it first try, so we don't have to worry about any weird shenanigans with the crane physics. But that is much harder than I made that look. You can spend a few tries getting the Yoshi doll, and it is unfortunately an early reset point if you're doing attempts. If you run 100%, then you hate this minigame a lot more in this version because you play that trendy game a lot more.
Yeah, they made that a lot trickier than the original game.
It's so bad.
It part of the difficulty is that there's just not a great clear indicator of when you should let go of the buttons to stop the crane, which is probably the most annoying part of it.
Alright, so we do have to do the first few parts of the trade sequence. This time around, there is a way to skip it, but it involves glitches, and obviously this is a glitchless category. That actually does bring to mind that the traditional any percent run that does use glitches is about an hour shorter than this run that you're seeing, but substantially more difficult than this run. But you won't be seeing any of those tricks, fortunately, tonight, so hopefully we can get through this run safe and sound. Anyway, so we did the first few steps of the trade sequence, and now we are going to enter the first dungeon, which is Tail Cave. It is a very easy dungeon. Nobody makes any mistakes in this dungeon at all.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. But for real though,
This is...
so the first dungeon introduces the item of the dungeon, which is the Rock's Feather. The items in this game are significantly nerfed from LADX. In LADX, the Rock's Feather was used to perform like really cool tricks, and there are tricks that you still can do, but they don't really look as cool in this version.
There's some bonkers stuff you can do in LADX just with the feather. It's like the best item just because like dungeon walls in LADX are seen as ledges, so you can do these things called super jumps off of them, and it's pretty great.
See, now, are super jumps, are they really glitches? I mean, they're so easy to do.
There's easy glitches.
To ask.
I mean, it's easy to get into the doghouse.
Go on.
The doghouse is easy to get into.
Yeah.
That's true, too. Here's some Goombas in the game for you that just kind of live down here, doing Goomba things.
Do they give you a heart if you jump on their head?
They do, actually, yes.
And actually, they even sometimes drop a heart even if you slash them, too. But you do have a 100% chance at getting a heart if you jump on them. Alright, so what I just did there, the game does autosave. It autosaves off to a different file, and you can actually load off of it, which is convenient for, backtracking. It's essentially emulating a save and quit, basically. So I just loaded off the autosave file, and now I'm back to the beginning of the dungeon to save backtracking. I picked up that key off to the left side, and I did that now instead of in the very beginning. Otherwise, because the first key you get would be a text box, and you want the first key you get to be from a chest, because keys from a chest will give you a text box anyway. One of those nice little optimizations that we use, because it's a glitchless category, so you need every time save that you can get.
This is the spot where we would perform our first super jump in LADX to get over that key block. But we're not allowed to do that here.
So, bosses have been significantly buffed up here in this version. In the originals, they were really easy, but they have increased the difficulty so that way there's more strategy to them. So here's our first mini-boss, which is Rolling Bones. We're going to try and pin him to the wall here. Just like that.
Ooh, nicely done.
I'm actually going to grab this for safety in case something goes wrong.
Rolling Bones is one of those mini-bosses that, in theory, it's easy, even within the speed run, but if you kind of let it get away from you, then it can, it can go slow.
And now here we have one of the hardest bosses in the game, which is Boldorm. He's a hamburger in this version. The worst kind of hamburger because it's just buns and lettuce. What makes Boldorm really hard is you have to hit him from behind, and he can knock you around in different places. And if you fall down the hole, then you have to. The fight resets. He gains all of his health back. And you just lose a lot of time. He also does 1 heart damage, so it can sometimes be easy to die against this fight, but fortunately we had a pretty alright fight there.
Now you did mention that like bosses are harder in this game, but I would say this is Boldorm's like the one exception to that, in that I was mentioning earlier before that Boldorm in LADX is just so hard because there's these pits on the side, and in this game, like, the pits are a little more covered. You're not just gonna fall down if you get hit to the side.
Yeah, it's
He's a little bit slower in this game. Like in LADX, he's just flying around the room so fast.
True. Yeah, it's one of those fights where it's like 95% of the time you're going to be okay, but once in a while Moldorm is just like, no. your run-ins here.
To some degree, it's better for him to be the first boss as opposed to the third boss in A Link to the Past, but yeah.
We say hello to our owl friend who periodically interrupts us and just kind of messes up your feeling of time. But now we're going to go say hi to an alligator. The training sequence in this game is always enjoyable because you go from a Yoshi doll to a ribbon to a can of dog food to bananas. Apparently alligators love eating canned dog food, including the can. So that's your animal fact for today.
It's tasty. It's got that metallic taste.
Grab some bananas, which we fortunately only have to do kind of like the first 1/3, I guess, of the trading quest.
Yeah, about that.
As mentioned before, because we do that RNG manipulation at the start, we're able to cut out some chunks of the game that are just, significantly time intensive and not particularly fun for long glitchless runs.
So right there, the kids are going to notify us that some moblins stole Bow Wow, and now we have to go rescue Bow Wow. There is a way to skip this sequence. It involves some weird shenanigans. Do you want to explain that?
For the skipping that, so if you're playing in any percent, you are actually able to glitch into Dungeon 2 without Bow Wow, which is normally a requirement, which involves using a like and getting up on top of the trees in this area and jumping over towards the level 2 dungeon, which is always a it's quite fun to do. But so we have a little boss coming up here that we'll give MCham some quiet time on.
Oh, what the heck? Okay.
That's unfortunate.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow, this guy's not being nice. Okay.
Oh wow.
Okay, that's that is the most unluckiest I have had that fight go wrong. So normally what's supposed to happen is he's supposed to crash into the wall the first time, and then with precise rhythm of slashes that you can actually do a 1 cycle on that fight. And if your rhythm's ever so slightly off, then he gets up and you don't get the stun lock anymore if they do the 1 cycle. Is it? People say it's random, but I don't believe it's random. Whether or not he gets the bonk.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we've tested it, 1,000 times, and it's not really clear if there's. For me personally, I think there probably is like a minor bit of RNG, but sometimes he just does not bonk the wall like he's supposed to, and it's just always unfortunate. But yeah, getting
equally as difficult as avoiding the heart piece of shame twice in a row.
Yeah, in most categories you actually skip that because you lose about like a few seconds if you pick it up, and we call it the heart piece of shame for that reason alone. The only reason you would ever want to pick that up is if you somehow have low hearts going like before or after Boblin Cave.
Yeah. And I promise you, I have never picked it up in a run before. It's pinky swear.
I picked up a few
Yeah,
times.
every LADX runner can say the same thing.
But here we are in the second dungeon. Not too much to say about this dungeon in general. Although this dungeon is, in any percent, is very notorious for a particular mini boss that we're approaching called Hinox. And in this game, you could do some very do some shenanigans where Hinox can throw you to the end of the dungeon. It is very difficult, so difficult that the community created a different category of any percent that doesn't use that trick at all. But in this category, we're actually gonna fight Hinox. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, kind of a somewhat actually that's a good difference between this and LADX, because I believe even Glitchless does it the same way. Would be you can get the bow and arrow earlier in LADX, and I believe it takes 2 shots.
Yeah,
I think it's 2 shots of arrows. I actually used to run LADX about 8 years ago. No, 6 years ago. But
it's pretty comical actually how fast it dies, because you're not supposed to have the bow in D2 in LADX, but because you can steal right at the start of the game, you can get the bow right away.
You can get the
And
bow
game just doesn't
early, but it's not faster in this category to get the bow early.
yeah, for some reason in this game they prevent you from getting bombs at all until I believe the trigger is defeating the boss of Dungeon 2.
Yes.
Which is unusual because yeah, I think in the originals you could I think you could just get it before Dungeon 1 even, because you could actually open secret seashell in Dungeon 1 that requires a bomb.
Alright, so we're coming up to the worst room in the game. So this room here, you have to defeat the enemies in a specific order. It is the Pole's Voice, the Keese, and the Stalfos, all in that order. And if you defeat the enemies in the wrong order, then you have to reset the room, and you just waste time.
Yep, and the hitboxes between those blocks and the pots there are deceptive. And sometimes you'll toss the pot at the Pole's Voice and it will break on the block, and you are just angry.
So I don't know if anybody was observant enough to notice he's able to pick up those pots without the bracelet being in either of the Y or X slot. Whereas you need to do that in LADX, but in this game, it's just automatically equipped, right?
Yes, there are some items where they're permanently equipped, so it makes some very interesting item combinations that you can't otherwise do in LADX ever.
But I wonder why they didn't do that with the feather.
Yeah, I don't know why. Alright, but so I just did a small little skip right there. You can just barely make it to the top of the top ledge without having to go all the way around and then to the boss door. And then now this is Genie. If you have donations, this would be a good time to read donations.
Alright, well, I do love to speak. Unfortunately, we do not have any new donations. However, of course, I do want to plug the incentives that are currently open for all of us to give our great donations towards. First of all, we have Hades Pet the Dog. For every $20 donated towards that incentive, BZ Archer will pet the dog. Currently, there's $128 and 55 cents donated towards that incentive, which that's, if my math is correct, 6 pets. So we can have up to 20 pets, though. We can have so many more pets if we want that incentive to be higher. And of course, we have 3 bid wars open for the next 24 hours, and that is going to be Bendy and the Ink Machine for this next run. You can either choose the Angel or Demon in Chapter 3. Currently, Demon is in the lead with $25. And then we have the Batman Arkham City Batman skin choice. We have the 70 skin in the lead with $40. The animated series skins with $15.14, and the Sinestro Cop skin in third with $15. And of course, there is a donation incentive for the Mario or Luigi bid war for M-Chan's run tomorrow. That is going to be New Super Mario Bros. 2. Currently, Luigi is in the lead with $80, and Mario is in second with $43.55. And of course, we are raising money for Go Rescue Pet Adoption Center, so we can get these incentives met, and of course raise money for a good cause. And we're very close to 1,000. Let's see if we can get it by the end of this run. Back to you, M-Chan.
Alright, as you can tell, the first phase it's very boring. You just dodge fireballs or throw the pot against the wall. You do it 3 times. In LADX, there's a way where you can do it 1 time, but that doesn't work here in this version. And then the second phase, there's 2 he clones himself twice, and the real one is the one that is further away from the center. And you can actually do that second phase in 2 cycles, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get enough slashes on the second cycle in to get the 2 cycles, so I had to get the 3rd cycle in. The other thing to note, which is that in this version of the game, you can actually skip heart containers. In LADX, you have to get the heart container opens up the door to the instrument room, so you have to pick up every heart container in the original. But here, you can actually skip heart containers, and when you skip heart containers, you save about a few seconds, but the more heart containers you skip, then the riskier the run gets, as later on there are harder-hitting enemies that will make it easier for you to die. World record runners usually run with 5 hearts. When I'm doing PB attempts, I usually run with 6 hearts. In this run, I might consider getting 7, but we'll see what happens with that.
That's kind of a nice thing there for newer runners. You're able to help make things easier for you as you learn the game with more heart containers.
Yeah, beginner runners would most likely run with the full 11 hearts, getting all 8 heart containers from all 8 dungeons.
So here we return Bow Wow. We get a kiss from a sweet old lady.
Yeah, and that does heal you up too.
And now we're going to go lawfully buy equipment out of the shop here. We are good. You just stole that shovel.
I don't know. Oh no! I died! Oh my god! The run's over.
I'll only put like 1% of his profit away anyway.
Alright, let's actually be nice here. We're gonna go ahead and get some bombs here.
Yeah. We'll make it for crimes and be an actual patron of a shop. So yeah, that's a fun feature of the game that's been there since the original. You can steal items in this game. The only downside being that when you re-enter, the shopkeeper will kill you. And then everyone on the island will refer to you as thief instead of your file name, and yeah, or Dieb in German. It's your German word for today.
Are we gonna see some bees in this run?
Unfortunately
no. We respect the request of not the bees in this game. But so what we're going to do now... Oh, one thing you should probably know is the difference between this and LADX is that you'll notice we're actually opening up these warp points throughout the run. And this is where our trading quest will actually end, is getting the bridge built here.
Yeah, spoilers.
But the in the original Link's Awakening, it was you got the song called oh gosh, my mind's blanking on the song's
Mambo?
name. Yeah, Mambo's Mambo. You got that song, and it would either warp you to, I believe it's Mambo's Pond.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the only place it would actually warp you
Mambo's
to.
Pond in the overworld, or in the beginning of the dungeon in a dungeon.
Yes. So in this game, though, we have, I forget how many exactly. I think it's like 8 or 9 warp points. That just kind of give you a fast travel system in this game.
In the original, there was like 4 warping points, and in this version, there's a lot more. So warping is like really powerful. This is also where you're likely going to hear me complain about menuing, because I use a GameCube controller and I use the GameCube D-pad to do warp menuing. And if you know how the GameCube D-pad works, it's not the best D-pad in the world.
I've never actually used... I didn't realize I could use GameCube controller for this game. I'm gonna try that now.
I just think it's easier.
So, So what we're doing now is we're collecting some golden leaves. So we're supposed to talk to someone named Richard, and he tells us like, "Hey, I got kicked out of my castle. Go find my golden leaves for me." Um, and you don't have to talk to him to do that though. So we just go grab the golden
But
leaves.
we do have to talk to him though. But yeah, it's faster to talk to him later.
Yeah.
In LADX, we just completely skip Castle. There's a huge trick that skips like 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's a trick called Villa Skip, which does work in this version, but in a much different way, and that's not allowed in this category.
Yeah. So something there that we picked up, I'm not as familiar with MCham's routing, because some runners focus more on it than others, is there are power-ups in this game, one of them being the Piece of Power, which isn't currently in use here, which boosts your walking speed, which normally doesn't particularly help because you get that text box when you first pick up the power-up that says it's it uses up about as much time for that text box is for you to use up the speed. However, there's some places in the game where it helps you to beat enemies faster, specifically bosses, because it also increases your attack power as well as your walking speed. So that knight that MCham just defeated normally takes, I believe, 10 sword slashes, and then with Piece of Power, it only takes 5. But the way to trigger that power-up from showing up, there's a mathematical formula that we use to get that, where it's a certain number of enemies plus the current amount of heart containers you have. So some areas of the game, it's very beneficial. Other areas, it's marginally so. And each runner kind of has their own methodology, or some runners don't even use it if they don't feel like it's worth it. But it gives this category something fun to
it's
roll
not as
around
useful
in your head.
in this version. I mean, it's useful, but it's not. It doesn't really have like too much benefits in this version because in this version, Piece of Power and Garden Acorn, they both last for like 30 to 40 seconds, whereas in the originals, they last until you get hit 3 times or transition to a new area.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And we don't want Guardian Acorn at all in this
Guardian
version.
Acorn, you kill. I don't particularly know in this version. In the original, it was 12 enemies without getting hit. But in this version, it still is a certain amount of kills without getting hit. So you'll see Guardian Acorn have to appear more times than Piece of Power. And another thing that's worth noting is that the kill count is maintained throughout the entire playthrough, unlike in the original versions, where it was maintained until you either save and quit or die.
Yep. So now we're opening up Dungeon 3 here.
And so we actually talked to Richard twice. One to activate the Candle Castle sequence, and then the other to turn in our golden leaves.
I always kind of hold my breath when people jump up those stairs to that keyhole, because I had an odd incident once in a run where I jumped up those stairs and I just fell through the map.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's only ever happened to me one time. No one has ever been able to recreate it, and it was just weird. I blame solar flares, which was actually a thing.
In LADX, the funny thing with the D3 keyhole is you can actually open it from the other side by clipping into it while holding your sword out, going through backwards.
That's true. I remember that.
Yeah, but obviously, with the way the collision works in this version, wall clipping does not work.
Yeah, and I think in LADX glitchless runs, I don't think that is allowed because it's an abuse of wall clipping. And I think you're allowed to wall clip for like the sake of movement, but you can't do tricks related to it, something like that. There is a glitchless category in LADX.
I
just
always-
there's very few runners.
I always joke to myself, like, I think it might actually be easier. The glitchless sounds harder to me for LADX just because of how easy it is to glitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so broken. It's like one of the most broken Zelda games.
Boy, is it ever fun.
Yeah.
So up here we have the lovely Dodongo snakes, who are yeah, it's just an auto scroller.
There are actually two glitches related to the Dodongos and LADX. The first one, and this is one that maybe people actually discovered on their own by mistake, is that if you kill one of them and then leave the room, the other one will just be dead. Yeah, and then the other trick is more of a speedrun specific thing. It's you can do like a super jump off one part, and then you do like a spin slash mid-air, and you click off of it over to the key block on the right. So you just skip it entirely.
Yeah, we're for the 80% of this game, the or 80% no Hinox warp, it's originally so technically in this game, if you kill one and you exit and come back, the one you killed respawns. But I think recently there was someone who discovered a glitch that let you do it like the original. You kill one and then the other dies, but it's kind of pointless because yeah, we just completely skip it as well. In 80% runs, we have a whole setup where we go around the Dongo stakes and fortunately never have to fight them in D3 or D6 in 80% categories. So this is the only category where we see the Dongo snakes.
These are rooms that you
I
probably
call them
never have
auto-scroller.
seen before in your speedruns, right, Zintro?
Yeah, really.
Did you
We
remember
literally
that?
never ever see these rooms.
So did you forget they existed?
No, I knew they were there.
That's
I've done
me
enough
and
randomizers to know I need to.
that's me in D5. I'm like I don't think I could actually solve D5 in the vanilla way at all. Like off the top of my head, I have no idea.
A couple years ago, I tried doing D8 as intended, and I had no idea what I was doing.
It's so hard.
I don't know. Yeah, D8 I don't think has an intended way. I'm not sure.
It's a crazy,
There's
like,
too
you
many
have more
rooms
keys than you can
in the 8th dungeon.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be kind of more like a mini boss gauntlet
But
than anything.
I think we're going a little bit too far ahead of ourselves there.
Yeah, a little
It's not
bit.
being much,
We'll get there
like,
eventually.
So, earlier we just opened up a 300 rupee chest. That is all the rupees that we're going to be needing throughout the rest of the game. So rupee routing is very lenient in this run, fortunately. So we're gonna get the. So now we have the 4th key back there. So now we can go ahead and beat the dungeon.
So in English, this dungeon's called Key Cavern. Kind of the main mechanic is you have to get a bunch of keys to open up this ring of blocks here to get to the boss.
It's also shaped like a key.
Yeah, the map layout is shaped like a key. Yeah.
For some reason in German, it's called the Devil's House, which makes no sense, but it sounds cool. So here's our third boss, the
Slime Eye. Or Gigazol.
Slime Eye. Gigazol. I'm so used to Gigazol at this point, where
I mean, Gigazol is just a better name. Look at it, it's a Zol, right?
it's like a giant metal Zol from like Dragon Quest. So we
okay. Yeah, if that fight
So
goes
we're
out
able-
of hand, he'll if you don't get that last slash in, then he will jump up and you have to dodge his stomping attack again. If you want to jump right before he lands, otherwise he stuns you.
Yeah, it's one of those fights where like if everything goes smoothly, it's easy, but if you kind of let it get out of hand, it can kind of get away from you. But There is a way to... You can one-cycle that fight, where it doesn't do any jumps, but it's very rare without Piece of Power, and even with Piece of Power, it's not guaranteed. You kind of have to have all the RNG pieces fall in the right place.
Alright, so this is where the
But
run
now
starts to
we-
get a little faster paced now that we got the item to dungeon, which is Pegasus Boots. Pegasus Boots allows you to... in this version, the Pegasus Boots actually has a startup animation, which doesn't make dashing... which makes it so that you actually have to, like, route in what's the best way to efficiently optimize dashing, unlike in LADX where you can just hold dash almost the entire time. You can also, like, dash diagonally, like you can in Minish Cap. So, you know, while it's a remake of the original LADX, they bring in a few references from, like, other 2D Zelda games, which is really cool. I believe the rule of thumb is if your destination's like 4.5 tiles apart, then it's worth dashing. But yeah. So, like what Meeks said earlier, the getting the stick is... Oh, whoops. Okay. Getting sidetracked there. That's normally where you're supposed to go. In an LADX run, usually, you actually go around the dungeon, go around the third dungeon, and trade the stick that we got from Candle Castle to Terran, who's waiting by a tree and then you'll get the honeycomb. You skip the bees cutscene in this run, unfortunately. And then you deliver the honeycomb to Chef Bear in that house that I mistakenly went into. And he'll give you pineapple, which will then trigger Marin to spawn at the beach. But in this version, there's a way to... They added another version, another way to spawn Marin at the beach. And that is by talking to the walrus. So that allows us to skip a couple steps of the trade sequence, which, yes, we are not going to be doing any more of the trade sequence. This is where the chat leaves, or this is where Osmorn, or even Sorty TV, or Zintro leaves the call. But my favorite kind of pizza is pineapple pizza.
Oh, I'm
How dare you?
My man, are you kidding me? Up top. Like, we're Pineapple Pizza Gang right here.
I have no strong feelings towards anyone's enjoyment of toppings on pizza, or lack thereof.
I recently made the mistake of asking for pineapple on my pizza at an Italian restaurant.
That would probably not be a great scenario.
I didn't actually realize it was very much not an Italian thing.
So we went to the Dream Shrine there. Spoilers for however old this game is, 25 years?
Not 3 years.
The game... for this version. So this whole island on Koholet takes place inside a dream. The dream of the windfish. But then you go into the Dream Shrine and you fall asleep, and then you have a dream where you see the ocarina, and you get the ocarina, and then leave that dream and come back to the other dream. It makes sense, I swear.
I mean, sometimes you wake up and you're dreaming. Did you just have a dream within a dream there?
Maybe it's all just a dream.
And did you know that every dream is random? As you can see, these seagulls in the background, they're different every single time.
Every single that's something they preserved perfectly from the original games is seagull RNG.
It's
pretty fun to just see like what they might do, hope for them to do a specific action.
This is how this is what determines how good your run is.
Yeah,
it's a pretty boring scene once you've seen it like 100 times. You just gotta find some way to make it interesting.
I don't know. This is my favorite part of the game.
So right there was a pro dating strat from Link. When you get a date with your person of interest, hold them above your head, and treat them like you just like pulled them out of a treasure box, and they will date you. So Marin has joined our party now. Unfortunately, we don't get to spend much time with her. There's actually a lot of stuff you can do throughout the island with her and see some interactions. Unfortunately, actually less than you do in LADX, mainly just because there's no photos in this version of the game that LADX has.
Yeah, and so this is this is where where our day ends. No walrus skip, fortunately. It's a trick in LADX. It's stop lock potential. But now here we are, the Landmula boss fights. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, here's another fight that's like so much easier in LADX.
This is a very difficult fight.
2 cycles not bad. If you're really good, then you can get oh my goodness. Okay, so normally you don't want that to happen. The key can fall in the quicksand sometimes. In 100% this is good, or it doesn't really matter as much, but here it's bad because you have no reason to go underneath here. So I just wasted like 20 seconds. If you're really good, then you can defeat Landmula in 1 cycle. 1 cycle being before he dives back into the quicksand. It's really hard, and it's also luck-based. The luck element is that Landmula can sometimes do a short hop, which makes it really hard to get a 1 cycle.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most difficult, I think, fights kind of in the whole run. Just to optimize, extremely well.
Makes me quite glad that in DX all you have to do is just shoot 2 arrows as soon as you enter the room.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
It's literally all there is. Just shoot 2 arrows and it dies.
Alright, so this is one of 3 songs. We do need all 3 songs of the Ocarina in order to beat this game. So this is the Battle of the Windfish. You do need this to beat the game, so we do need to do this. There's another way to get this song, and that is in the village. It's more convenient here. In any percent, like in the glitch categories, you actually you get the song in the village because there's actually a glitch, like a really huge glitch, where that skips this entire sequence. It's called the Angler Key Skip, but obviously it's a glitch, so we do have to deal with this part.
And in LADX, we don't need to pick up the song at all because we have what are called bomb triggers in that game, which is a screen transition related glitch, and that just, for whatever reason, you can just trigger cutscenes by doing this. It's pretty complex. I'm not going to explain it.
Yeah, no screen transition, so it's not really possible. Alright, so now that we got the song, it is now time to enter the 4th dungeon. One of the most common mistakes that new runners will make is forgetting to open up the 4th dungeon, as it is a little bit out of the way to even do that in the first place, and if you find out that you didn't open up the dungeon at the very end, then you just lose a lot of time.
Yeah. Only new runners make that mistake. I've never made that mistake ever. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things you have to kind of when you do a lot of runs. Especially when you're trying to grind out a PB, it's really easy just to kind of forget because everything kind of looks the same and all kind of mushes together in your head, so you always have to kind of be on your toes.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, so this cave is called the Obstacle Cave because in LADX there's a little well-known trick that we call Obstacle Skip, but Obstacle Skip doesn't really work here in this version, and if it does, it doesn't really save time, so take that, LADX runners.
I think I was told, I don't think I've seen it myself, I was told there is some version of it in this game, but yeah, I don't think it saves any time. I think, if anything, it loses time. But so here is
nothing to do with not being able to transition screens.
I'm not sure. I think it may have to do more of just how the obstacles kind of just work in this game. They're kind of just very different from how they are in the original. They're kind of like Jello in this game. They're weird.
Yeah. Okay. This is Angler Tunnel, the fourth dungeon. This dungeon used to be pretty boring, but around 2 years ago, a trick was discovered to where you can skip about half the dungeon. It's called the bomb jump, where it is a precise placement of a bomb in order to recoil you to the bottom part of the cross jump section that we're about to backtrack to, in order to skip 2 keys of the dungeon. So let's see if I can pull it off here. Okay, let's try that again.
It is a tricky trick.
Oh my gosh.
Almost.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, I may have to. I'm gonna save in case I fail a few more times. Okay, there we go.
Nice.
It's a nice example of a non-glitch trick.
Yeah. The chat's gonna be upset. What is this guy doing? He said glitchless.
Yeah, it's really a good example in this game of where we've had to, as a community, kind of define what is or is not a glitch. And that fight is, or not fight, the trick is basically all physics. There's nothing that is, even though you're throwing a bomb technically out of bounds, it's something you can just do in vanilla. Like there's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's the bomb going out of bounds, the devs not linked, so it's okay.
Yeah, the devs did not have any intention or non-intention of bombs going out of bounds like that. Like it just happens. And Link doesn't go out of bounds, and you're not using it to go out of bounds, so it's just using the natural physics of an exploding bomb in a specific area to send you over the edge. and that trick is very worth it, because even with multiple attempts, it's still faster than going around and getting the extra keys to get through that southern part of the dungeon.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Question to Sorty. What do you want to see next? You want to see Armos Knight, or do you want to see Dungeon 5?
Oh gosh. Usually I go for Armos Knight.
Okay, Zintro, what do you want to see next?
Well, considering you haven't even beaten D4, let's do the Armos.
Okay. Okay. All right. So from here you can actually so first we got the Mambo's Mambo, which is allows you to basically warp to any warp point that we've activated. It used to be that it only warps you to Mambo's Pond or in a dungeon, the beginning of the dungeon. But here we can warp to anywhere that we any warp point, which is really convenient for transportation. So if there was a way to skip the ocarina, it wouldn't really be worth it due to how powerful warping is. Oh my god, I'm launching a lot. And so from here, right after getting Mambo's Mambo, this is where we can actually kind of diversify a little bit here. You can either go to Armos Knights, or you can go straight to Dungeon 5, and both routes are identical in time. The only difference is if you do this part later, then a rabbit will be in the way, and so you have to spend a little bit more time avoiding the rabbit and not bonking on the rabbit. Runners would usually take the other route if they know where their kill count is at, and they need to and they feel like they need to kill less enemies in order to get piece of power to where they need piece of power at.
Given this game's reputation of having Mario characters, is the rabbit Mips?
No, it doesn't really look like this, so I don't think it counts.
I think the N64 was still in development when the game first came out, so no, actually, probably not. Probably not. So this boss has the worst hitbox in the game, and that is not an exaggeration. It is legitimately bad. Even vanilla players complain about the hitbox on this, or non-speedrunners
I
rather.
don't know why they changed this fight.
Yeah, it's the one fight in the game that like I actually think is just not great, just because yeah, the hitbox is huge. But yeah, we got the key, and
So that's the key to the 6th dungeon, which we're not going to be doing. We actually can't do it, because obviously we don't have the item from the 5th dungeon. You might notice, actually, that I didn't finish the 4th dungeon, Angler Tunnel, and that's because if you complete it, then a ghost will appear, and you can't enter any dungeons while the ghost is following you. So you have to do this like whole trip around the world with the ghost, and it loses like 3 minutes. So it's actually faster to complete Dungeon 4 much later into the run. In the original, it used to be that as long as you got the item from the 6th dungeon, then the ghost will not appear if you from completing the 4th dungeon. But here they fixed that mainly because you wouldn't be able to 100% the game if that was still the case. So. But here we are in the 5th dungeon. I'm not a fan of this dungeon. There's a lot of ways where you can lose little bits of time, which adds up very quickly. So we'll see what happens here. There is a way where you can actually skip a lot of this dungeon using a really... I don't really know what the trick is called, but it has to do with like the hook shot in this dungeon. And it even includes skipping the boss as well.
yeah, I think we call it hookshot rocket, which is interesting. We are trying to find a way. I don't think we found it yet. I'm a little bit behind on the glitches in this game because I've been playing glitchless. You're able to skip the boss and go straight to the instrument, and then you have to re-enter and then get the hook shot. But we're working on trying to find a way where we can do all that in one go without having to go back in. So this is Papyrus, or Master Stalfos, who is kind of the gimmick, I guess, of the dungeon.
Yeah, he stole the item
have
of
to fight.
the dungeon, which is the hook shot, and we have to chase after him.
Yeah, so we get to blow him up a whole bunch.
Yeah. In the original, it used to be that the first and fourth fight, you have to bomb him 3 times, whereas the second and third fight, you have to blow him up 2 times. But in this version, you have to blow him up all 3 times in all 4 fights. And also, you have to fight Master Stalfos in the order of these rooms. You can see there's like a 1 and a 2 blue spot. The next room is there's going to be 3 of these blue tiles. So you do have to go in order. So it's kind of a unexciting fights because it's the same all 4 times. So with that being said, since all I'm doing is just chasing around Master Stalfos, this would be a good time if there's any donations or anything that Osborne would like to say.
I do love to say things. And again, I just want to remind everybody that we are raising money for the Go Rescue Pet Adoption Center. It's a non-profit shelter located in Norfolk, Virginia. Ran by Georgia Obenaus. In 2011, she lost her home, and her only focus became how to prevent her family dogs from going back to animal control. Starting out with just an empty shell of a building, Go Rescue soon became not just a place for current rescues, but a shelter that has grown to rescue over 2,000 dogs to date with no signs of slowing down. And they work to provide a haven for homeless dogs, giving them the time and care and love that they need to not just find any home, but the right home. And of course, that is a really, really, really good reason to be donating for this amazing cause, as well as the various incentives that we have opened up. To hit exclamation point donate in chat to go to our Tiltify page, where you can donate and put your money towards some of our incentives as well. And not only that, but another reason you should donate is because Go Rescue is a state-approved 501c3 nonprofit, which means your invaluable donations may be tax deductible, and your employer might also match your donations. So that's a lot of different reasons as to why you should be donating to this amazing cause. And not only that, but we are very, very, very close to 1,000. We still have an hour left in this run, so technically we can get to 1,000. Just $59 left to go straight to get to our next milestone, which is $1,000. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for donating, and I'll give it back to you, M-Chan.
We got the hook shot finally. Now we can. Well, we need the boss key, so we're gonna get the boss key now, and then off to the boss.
So in LADX, you do also have to fight all 4 Master Stolfos, with one exception, which is the 100% category, where by this point in the game, you actually have the boomerang, and there's a crazy glitch where you can pull the key from the next door room into the room with the 4th Master Stolfos, and it'll convert the key into the hookshot.
Oh my goodness, that's wild.
Alright.
It's also random, so there's a 50% chance it won't work, and then you have to like reset the room, and you can lose like 15 seconds or something each time. It's like an hour into the run as
Also
well.
in this room, there used to be a trick called the dumb jump, where it's basically a very precise dash jump over this very large pit, but they made the pit wider, so it does not work at all.
Yeah, unfortunately we don't have quite the same jumping shenanigans that you have in LADX. I do remember, like, as a child playing LADX, I remember getting some weird results with Master Stalfos with a combination of the red tunic with a piece of power and the level 2 sword, and just like sometimes you could obliterate him without bombs, and sometimes he wouldn't die at all. Never made sense to me.
Yeah. Okay, so trick number 2 of controversies here. What is this guy doing? He said glitchless. Oh, first try, very nice. That is called skewing, where it's basically just changing your angle mid-air outside of the 8 directions that you move in, and which allows you to angle yourself precisely to where you can hook shot that block when it actually skips needing a key. And even with getting the extra key, you actually skip the main mini boss of dungeon, which is Goma. So even in glitchless, you never see Goma in Dungeon 5.
Yeah, angle skewing is something that just kind of happens naturally in the game. Your directional buttons are tuned to only 8 directions when you're walking, but picking up rocks, opening chests, jumping, all have the potential of skewing Link's angle in a particular direction that resets when you walk. By using the rock's feather and jumping, we're able to just skew that direction and manipulate it. We don't really consider it a glitch just because it just happens naturally in the game. It's something
it's basically just changing your angle midair, and that's it.
Yeah. And that was actually a pretty good Schleimall fight. I always forget the names in English anymore. Schleimall just sounds better to me.
But yeah, if you have piece of power, then you can actually do a 1 cycle if you're lucky. Because it takes 16 slashes to beat. Otherwise, it takes 16 slashes to beat him, which you cannot get the full 16 slashes without piece of power. So you have to do the 2 cycles. And 100% is completely free because with Red Tunic, you can always 1 cycle as long as you're lucky. But this is not 100%, so if you're good enough at your kill routing, then you can try and route on piece of power right before the boss fights. But you do have to get there fast enough in order for it to be worth it, because sometimes the skew trick that I just did can be kind of finicky.
Yep.
So that is the 5th dungeon completed, and now since I already defeated Armos Knights, we just go straight to the 6th dungeon, which is Face Shrine. Also, I picked up the heart container from Catfish Maw, which I don't normally do in PB attempts, but since it's a marathon and a heart container only loses about a few seconds, I'm just grabbing it for the slight extra buffer consistency.
Upcoming is Dungeon 6, which is probably the most difficult dungeon to
Yeah, I hate this dungeon.
to go through.
Um,
It's kind of the make or break dungeon for the run a lot of the times.
Dungeons 5 and 6 are two of my least favorite dungeons of the run. In Face Shrine is probably the longest dungeon in the game because without any sequence breaks. We have to go here to the right side, or the left side, in order to get to the item of the dungeon, which is the level 2 bracelet, or in this version, the more powerful bracelet. Very good name.
Yeah, and this is one of those dungeons too where it's kind of interesting. It's kind of a excellent. It's kind of like I guess an older Nintendo design philosophy for Zelda games where you don't have to go to every room. In this dungeon, you're actually able to just kind of skip parts of it. It's like there's no tricks or glitches involved in it. It's just optimal routing. So there's parts of the dungeons where you may be like, hey, why didn't you go there? And the reason why is there's not really a reason to. Kind of get what you need and get in and get out. This is also an area of the game where one of the difficulties of glitchless is keeping up a high enough arrow count to get through the run. There are two areas where you need to make sure you have enough arrows to optimally get through. One of them is this dungeon. You want to make sure you have a couple of arrows to bomb a bombable wall, and then also kill a couple of those Wizrobes a little while back before the power bracelet. And then also later in the game for Dungeon 7, there's a boss that goes much smoother the more arrows you have. That you also need to preserve enough arrows for the final boss. So we're always keeping count of arrow usages in this category. It's can be tight. So
All right, let's see if I get this.
Great.
Okay. So if so you can actually grab the ball right before Smasher gets it. It's very precise, but it looks really cool if you can get it. But unfortunate. But either way, this boss is really not that hard. So there we go.
Good old Smasher. Unfortunately, we do not have a way to pet Smasher in this game. Even though it is adorable.
Just the sound it makes.
It should have had a pet feature, which is a reminder that there is some incentives to pet the pet Cerberus and Hades, I believe.
That is true. $20 per pet. We're currently $128 in there, so we can get even more pets.
I have seen this Cerberus before. He is a very good pupper, and deserves as many pets as possible. Oh. So here we're kind of just going around the dungeon and collecting all the keys that we need.
Alright, so coming up is horse heads. So how many tries do y'all think I'm going to get horse heads in?
22.
22? Oh my god, no faith. How about you, Zintro?
I think it's gonna be
2? Okay, that's a little bit better.
Two is kind of the average, right?
Not my average. Alright, let's see. Let me get these pots out of the way first. Oh my god, I did it! How did I do it?
What? Completely broke my
Alright.
expectations.
So in reality, it's kind of set in stone in this. In LADX, it's completely random, and it's probably it's one of those things that like every runner hates and dreads, just because you can lose so much time just because you keep throwing the heads and they just don't land upright. And here, they have slots that you can just put them in. And funny enough, they actually act like real chess pieces in that they move in an L shape.
Roughly an L shape, if everything goes well. And here we have more Dodongo snakes. You may have noticed in the room before we defeated those Pole's Voices by playing Marin's song on the ocarina. That's a callback to Zelda 1. In the Famicom version, you could, I believe it's like you could make a noise in the microphone of the second controller, because the Famicom controllers had microphones. And defeat the Pole's Voices that way, and then in the US version, you could play the flute to defeat them. That's kind of a reference to that as well. So they lots of little references like that in this game.
We got the boss
then
key,
Dodongo
and
snakes.
now it is time to beat the dungeon.
And Facade in this game definitely got an upgrade in difficulty.
Oh yeah. In DX, you can actually hit the boss several times before the face even appears.
Also in DX, it's
Yeah,
just placing a bomb, and that's basically the fight, but Facade actually has a hitbox this time around, so you can't just hang around and place bombs. You actually have to avoid his face sometimes. But we're going to be doing a pretty precise strat here.
We'll get some bit of quiet time for this boss, because it is a difficult boss.
This is where the extra hard container can come into play here. Okay. Hit him, please. Thank you. Alright, one more hit. Oh, okay, I have to... Okay, so... If everything went well, then I would have just shot bomb arrows at all, at a precise enough angle to where I hit the tiles with the bomb arrow, but at the same time it hits the sod as well. But as you can see, if you mess up, then it can really go out of hand really quickly. If there's no more tiles or pots flying at you, then you just have to use bombs. Unless Facade spawns at a corner, then, unfortunate. But, no, we didn't die, which is all that matters. If you die, you lose a lot of time.
Yeah, dying is the main thing you want to avoid in that fight. But yeah, it is very difficult, because, yeah, it's sometimes it's just... Facade is just mean.
Yeah. Yeah, he spawns in the middle in the first 3 cycles, and then the 4th cycle and onwards he will spawn at a random spot, which makes it really hard to, well, sometimes makes it hard to kind of position yourself in a way where you can line yourself up with a tile to hit the sod. But here we are. The next thing that we're going to be doing here is the signpost maze. So the signpost maze is a very boring part of the game where you just read a sign. It's going to tell you where the next sign is. If you read the wrong sign or you read the same sign twice, then you have to reset the entire signpost maze. So
Also made it hard to get into it.
huh?
They kind of made it hard to get into it as well. Like DX, you could just jump over those pits, but now they're like at a different angle. There's more of them.
Yeah.
It's definitely a an interesting area where to kind of like optimize the methods of movement. You'll notice I'm using a variety of dashing and hook shot movement. It's one of those situations where a lot of the times hookshot movement is actually the fastest movement in the game, but we don't always have uh, an opportunity to use it because it does like require like a straight shot. In which case dashing is probably like the faster method. So it's definitely one of those like areas where it's taken a long time to kind of route it optimally, and we might still find little micro routes. Here we have the best song in the game.
So good.
You're right. 100%.
It's worth the 300 rupees that we saved up from Dungeon 3.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, this song's a banger in this version. People complain about it a lot in the original version. One because it doesn't sound as good. The other is because there's like weird like flashing lights quirks.
It's not supposed to sound good.
Also, shout out
It's
to
supposed to be really bad. That's why I don't actually like the beat that they added in this version.
What?
Because it suddenly tries to make it sound
I hate
a
your
little
taste,
bit better.
man.
I think they need to keep it sounding as bad as possible.
Oh, I'm talking about both versions are masterpieces.
I like it.
And if you ever
There's some
wonder
debate
what,
on whether or not that or Member's Mambo is the best song.
yeah, if you ever wonder what happened to Wart from Super Mario Brothers 2 for the US, after Mario defeats him, he goes into the Windfish's dream and starts a band. So, so here is the only so I'm not sure now. This is one of the instances in the Zelda series where Link commits necromancy, and we resurrect a rooster from the dead.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. But yeah, we need this. In the glitch categories, this is the rooster is actually very powerful. You do some really powerful shenanigans with the rooster, but here it is required to have the rooster for basically one reason. So unfortunately, no rooster skip. Rooster skip was a very well-known trick in the original versions. Where you get the key to the 7th dungeon without the rooster, using a double frame perfect trick, but we do not do that this time around. It does not work anyway. So
Before you could in Rooster Skip you have one frame when the hookshot is fully retracting onto Link to jump, and you have to do that twice in a row.
Yep, but fortunately, you don't have to worry about that. Don't have to worry about losing your run. And yeah, here's not obstacle skip number 2. We did it.
Yay! But yeah, the rooster is a very good boy in this version, and we love the rooster. We have been finding some methods of glitching in glitch categories without the rooster that we previously used the rooster for, but I think for the time being we'll still be using the rooster a good bit, and we've actually invested a lot of time of trying to get the rooster early in the game, which to no avail yet. So if you want to be one of those people that show up on one of those speedrunning like history YouTube channels, help us find early rooster and Link's Awakening Switch.
Alright, so we got the key now. So now we're on our way to the 7th dungeon. If you fall down in that cave, then you actually spawn out of the cave, which means you have to climb your way back into the cave again, and you lose like 40 seconds. Yeah, time to make our climb. Nothing notable to point out as we climb to the 7th dungeon, so Osmorn, this is your time to shine.
Woo! That's what I love to hear. Again, I want to remind everyone of the bid wars we currently have open for Bendy and the Ink Machine. That is going to be coming up the next run after this. Currently, the Angel or Demon in Chapter 3 is that bid war is open, with Demon being in the lead with $25. And after that run, there's going to be Batman Arkham City. We have the Batman skin choice for the 70 skin, which is in the lead with $40. The animated series skin, which is in second with $15.14, and the Sinestro Cop skin with $15 flat. There's also the Dark Knight Return skin and the Beyond skin as well that you can donate towards. However, we also have another bid war open for New Super Mario Bros. 2 M-Chan's run tomorrow for play as Mario or Luigi. Currently, Luigi is in the lead with $80 and Mario is in second, $43.55. So make sure you get those donations in if you want to be able to sway the way of those bid wars. And again, we are very close towards the end of this run. We can still get towards 1,000 if we really try here. So even if everyone that's watching right now just donates $1, we can do that. We can get a $1 train going, and that'll reach us to 1,000 in no time. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting the stream, and take it away, M-Chan.
Okay, so this is Eagle Tower, the 7th dungeon. Very notorious to a lot of casual players as one of the worst dungeons in the game, as it is a very unique dungeon in a way where it's a tower dungeon and not like a dungeon with a bunch of rooms. So there's a lot of, like, it's very complex design-wise, but we obviously in a speedrun we know the fastest way through this dungeon. The gimmick behind this dungeon is that there's this metal ball that we have to carry around and destroy 4 pillars in order to destroy the floor above us. So what I just did there is I grabbed the ball and then reloaded the room, which resets the blocks that are closing in, which is much easier than pulling that lever in order to beat that block cycle before it closes in.
Interesting difference between this and DX is that the spikes come in and out of the ground, whereas in DX they're just always out.
The spikes decided to be a bit more animated in this version.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why they did that either. Like, it kind of just makes it easier.
It looks cool.
What I like to do in this room is kind of just hang out in the corner, hold my shield out until the last tile spawns. Minor optimization there is, as long as you defeat the last tile, then the door opens. You just saw that the door opened while one of the tiles was still on screen.
And unlike the glitched Link's Awakening versions, original versions, we don't have bomb triggers, so we can't just magically explode the pillars by walking into the room.
Yeah, we actually have to use the real intended ball.
The way Nintendo wanted you to do it. It's kind of interesting, though. I've been running this game since the second week the game came out, and when I got into this, it's like a nice fresh of breath air, because I got into this version, and at the time I got into it as a speedrun, I was semi-burnt out of the original, because I've already been running the originals for a while. Alright, but hardest boss in the game. Let's see if I can do this.
Uh-oh.
We're hoping for good luck here. Oh my gosh, I did it! How did I do it? Yeah.
Fortunately, that boss is fairly easy.
It's like exactly the same in DX as well.
Yeah.
There have been a couple of newer strats that have come out where we are playing around with trying to kill those bats earlier, but it is very difficult. So I don't think it actually saves too much time over just taking your time and chilling out. So over up here we have. I was going to say the Hinox, but first we have 3 of a kind, which is objectively the worst enemy in the game. Um, I hate that enemy because in my mind, whenever I order playing cards, I always go spade, club, diamond, and then heart. For some reason, it goes heart and then diamond in this game. It throws me off. But that Hinox back in that room, if you remember that from Dungeon 2, the Hinox in this dungeon is very broken, and in glitch categories, we actually use the Hinox to get thrown to the instrument room. He will pick you up and throw you to the instrument room, and you're able just to clear the dungeon, or potentially the boss. It's a very tight trick, but ideally you want to get thrown to the the, the instrument room.
All 4 pillars taken down, and this would be where I can finish the dungeon. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. Oh wait, first off, trick number 3 of what is this guy doing? He said glitchless. If you basically just jump off the left side of that ledge and hold down, then you can just not fall down that hole, which skips having to climb all the way back around the mountain. I didn't complete the 7th dungeon, because if I do that, then upcoming would be a cutscene where Marin is captured and we have to save her. This loses about a minute.
Oh man, this cutscene's so long.
Yeah, it's so long. By backtracking to the 7th dungeon, after the 8th dungeon, then we just never have to go back to this area to save Marin.
Funny enough, in DX, you can actually just completely skip Marin entirely. You can spawn her on the bridge, but if you jump over the ledges and just stay on the bottom of the bridge, you can just completely go right past it.
Alright, this is RNG time. Okay, we're good. Those boulders can sometimes hit you as you're climbing that ladder, and I have died getting infinitely bouldered climbing that ladder.
Yep, it happens, unfortunately. Also, slightly disappointing that the devs decided to color the boulders brown instead of the Link to the Past green. So we can no longer claim death by cabbages. So here's actually my favorite boss fight of the game.
Okay, I can't get that piece of power. Piece of power actually saved time in this boss fight, but can't get in from the way it's positioned. But yeah, this is the actual Turtle Rock fight. You never fight this in the originals, but you have to this time.
I was about to say, is it kind of odd to actually fight this boss? Because in the original you could just walk through its head, if I remember correctly.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't even play the frog song either. You just do a bomb trigger to get the fight started.
Yeah, basically just slash this guy a bunch of times, and if you do have piece of power, then it can save time in this fight. But since it doesn't save as much time, most people don't really try to go for it unless they happen to get a piece of power drop near the boss fight.
Yeah, and a bit of a scary boss fight too if you're going with lower hearts, because it deals 2 damage per hit. So if you have 5 heart containers and you're down to 3 hearts or 2 hearts, it can be a little spooky. Old Vire there giving you some vile RNG.
I've never seen that before. Alright, so this is the 8th dungeon, Turtle Rock. Not to be confused with Turtle Rock from A Link to the Past. It's a very complicated dungeon, as they were talking about way earlier in the run. And there's a lot of rooms, and it's supposed to be a mini-boss gauntlet. But if you know the fastest way around this dungeon, then you really skip a lot of mini-bosses. There are almost every mini-boss, except for the Dungeon 5 mini-bosses, return in this fight, but you're basically not going to be seeing almost any of them. Bomb arrows are so powerful that allows you to basically just skip quite a bit of the dungeon. Which we actually haven't talked about bomb arrows. So you can actually, so if you put bombs and arrows at the same time and use them at the same time, then you get this like really cool effect where the bomb is at the arrow point of the arrow, and it's really cool.
Actually, that's an interesting tidbit, because in the original games, the bomber was actually a glitch that was in there, that a rather famous and very easy glitch to pull off. And in this game, if there's any confusion, it is not a glitch in this game. It is actually intended in this game. That is something they took and made an actual thing in this game.
If you look at
so.
the back of the box cover of the game, then then they teach you how to use bomb arrows. So it is not a glitch whatsoever.
Yep.
I was literally just about to ask, like, wasn't there some debate on whether that's a glitch or not?
In this version, no.
No.
Alright, but coming up is Bueno. It used to be really easy in the originals. Let's see what happens here.
And this is not the only place where you see Bueno. Bueno actually shows up in a later,
Yes.
Zelda game for the Game Boy.
It's very, very, very precise quick kill that I got right there.
Nicely done. Very good.
But yeah, yes, Zintro's right. He does appear in Oracle of Seasons, actually, but he's not a mini boss in Oracle of Seasons.
Also, for Bueno fans, you might be disappointed in this version to find out that Bueno is actually not a penguin. I know when I was a kid, I always thought Bueno was a penguin. All the game FAQs guides called Bueno a penguin. Even the official Link's Awakening manga depicted Bueno as a penguin, but apparently officially he is not a penguin, and he does not look like a penguin in this game. Which I think is just unfortunate.
Alright, so in this room, I'd like to give a shout out to former LAS runner Adamo, because in one of his runs, he was on really good PB pace, and then he accidentally loaded a new file while he was trying to auto-load after getting that key, which then the game auto-saves when you basically start a new game, and so because of that, he had to start a new game, which then killed his run.
That is unfortunate.
It's a very sad way to lose the
Okay.
game.
Every community has that one player with a very, very famous
Let's
story.
see. So Hemshan just got burless there. No text box. That's very precise movement. Alright, we'll give some quiet time for this fight.
Alright, let's oh my gosh. I can just make it up inside. Oh my gosh. You can see if you mess this fight up, then yeah, it goes pretty badly. What I was trying to do there is, with precise arrow shots, you can actually stun him in place, and then you just want to basically maneuver left and right to because Bueno basically just alternates directions every time you hit him. And you want to do it 5 times and then have the last hit be a slash, but when you mess the fight up, then it kind of messes up your rhythm.
Yeah, it's one of those fights you just kind of hold your breath through and hope for the best.
It's also worth noting that Bueno is the worst mini-boss in this game. Out of all the bosses that they changed, they just happened to make Cue Ball have a really terrible hitbox.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where the hitbox is just much
If you've ever watched
much
me do attempts
bigger
of this
than it
game,
looks.
you always hear me complain about how bad cue ball is.
No. Well, you're just getting all the burlesque here. So that is a quality of life improvement in this game is you only get the text that tells you what was it, burr, like this ice
Yeah,
is
it's
cold or
so
something.
cold.
In the originals, if you just press up against it, you get that text box, which is not good in speedruns. We'll focus on this fight.
Okay, that's the first cycle, or that's the first phase. Oh, come on, you're not being nice. Okay, there we go. Alright, should I get this heart container? I'm low on hearts. I'll be fine. Hopefully. Hopefully I didn't say that too early.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, Hothead is a very annoying boss. He's
He's especially annoying in LADX.
Yeah, it's as much of an art as a science in its own way. Because sometimes you can kind of predict its pattern and kind of get your shots lined up correctly, and then sometimes he'll just do random stuff and you don't. It just gets away from you.
You're also less
yeah,
likely
now we're
to die in
gonna.
that fight, because in the originals he does 4 hearts of damage.
Oh gosh, is it that much? I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
It's a lot.
crazy.
Like in categories where you have very few hearts, if you get hit once, you're probably gonna die. And it's not hard to get hit either.
Alright, so going back into the 7th dungeon, we already did everything, so all we have to do is go straight to the boss. The boss is Evil Eagle, and Evil Eagle is random. The first phase of attacks that he does is, well, first off, there's a high swoop, a middle swoop, and a low swoop, and then he'll do Gus, and as well as a dive. You don't want to see Gus, that wastes time. The first phase of attacks, he will always do a middle swoop. Everything else is completely random.
You're pumped to dine in.
So this is a dive right here.
Definitely one of those fights where it can potentially just use you a lot of time just from RNG.
So you can actually cancel the Gus by just going down the ladder right as the Eagle shoots out Gus. Which is something that not a lot of people know about. But that's the fight right there.
Yeah, it was that's kind of an odd case where Japanese players, I believe it was, actually knew about that before like Western players did, and we just didn't take notice for like I think it was like almost a year after they had discovered it, and we had certainly tried it in the West, but for some reason we didn't go down far enough on the ladder or didn't try it like
or he probably like went down the
long
ladder
enough.
too early or something.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like so we just wrote it off like pretty quickly, and then unfortunately I forget his name now. There was a Japanese player who's on the boards pretty frequently.
That fight in particular is laughably easy in DX. Like there's a certain glitch you can do where you can have the hook shot or the magic rod even wrap around from the bottom of the screen over to the top to hit the boss.
Yeah, unfortunately we don't get that here. Unfortunately, they really severely nerfed the fire rod in this
I was wondering,
game.
you're not using it. I was wondering why.
Yeah, the magic rod
Yeah,
does significantly less damage now. Okay, so we're going back into back to the fourth dungeon, and thanks to RNG manipulation, I do have to go through the puzzle room to get the boss key. And thanks to RNG manipulation, I know exactly what my pattern is. It is up right, up left, down right, down left, and middle. And even without RNG manipulation, there's like 4 different combinations. This is not a glitch because it's just simply, you can just simply guess until you get the correct pattern. Also earlier I picked up Part Piece of Shame number 2. And that's so I can get more health. Going through the rest of the game with 2.5 hearts is very dangerous.
That one's much easier to avoid.
this is another boss in the game coming up that they gave some buffs to.
Oh yeah, it's like the easiest boss in the game in the original, but then they significantly increased the difficulty of the fight. In the originals,
Yes,
you
in
can
the
just stand at a
original.
specific spot and just mash sword. But here, it's not so much.
And in glitch categories, you can just shoot a few bomb arrows, which for some reason work underwater. Magic Rod also works underwater.
It does have the coolest name in German though, Piranha Killer. Like, come on.
So I'm positioning myself in a way where he basically gets hit by my spin attack twice. Okay, pretty okay fight right there. Shoutouts to Cravone, who didn't know he can hookshot down. Alright. I'm gonna skip that heart container.
Yes, I see they even put Carbone's skull into this game too.
There's 2 of them, actually. Who could the other one be?
Feel like that's some
Oh, I don't
LADX
know.
lore, I don't know.
Alright, so now that we completed Dungeon 4, that means I do have a possibility for the ghost to spawn if I'm on the lower half of the map, but since all we're doing is go straight to the end of the game, don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, we're a little bit mean in these speedruns. We leave the ghost to never find its home again, and we leave Marin standing up on the top of the mountain with no way home, and we're just a little bit mean in this speedrun.
Oh,
There's also actually an older glitch that fortunately we don't have to do anymore. That involved hitting around a fox a little bit, and but we finally got around to not having that be a thing in the game. But here we kind of got the big final song, the final moment coming up here.
so tradition to Link's Awakening in marathons, we are going to listen to this song here. Okay, so, in LADX there would usually be a lot to explain here, but since there's less glitches here in the final part of the game, it's a little bit more straightforward. If you paid attention, you might actually notice I didn't even read the book back in Mabe Village in the library. So you're gonna be wondering, how in the world am I gonna get through the egg? And thanks to RNG manipulation, I know exactly what my egg pattern is gonna be. It's right, up, left, up. So it allows us to, so this RNG manipulation basically allows us to skip the rest of the trade sequence, which is a lot from here on out. I think I might have went right one too many times. We'll see. Did I? Okay, I didn't. Okay. Alright, so now the nightmare fight. 6 phases. The first phase is the blob phase, where it takes 3 magic powders to beat him. In the originals, there's a glitch where you can skip having to use powder and just hold your sword out in a very specific position to skip using magic powder. Okay. Next up is Aghanim. Aghanim is the first shot is guaranteed with an energy shot. The rest is 50-50 between an energy shot and a blue ball. However, there is in this game, Aghanim cannot do the same thing 3 times in a row. So you're always going to get a blue ball, at least one blue ball. And assuming that you don't miss a single energy shot, the unluckiest you can get in this fight is 9 blue balls.
Which actually is very rare, because the way the way the RNG works in this thing is well, which unfortunately you're getting some bad RNG, yeah. But I think the average is usually 3 to 5 blue balls, but once in a while you can get some on, and we get to see Moldorm once again, a mini burnt hamburger version.
Yep. So then next up is Ganon. You double spin slash him, and then dash into him. Defeats him pretty easily. This is the Landmola's phase. 4 spin slashes. And then finally is Deathel. No Deathel skip, unlike in the original. It takes 10 arrows to beat Deathel, unlike 16 in the original. And you can only shoot 2 arrows per cycle. 3 if you're really good, but most people don't usually go for the 3 arrows.
I think I've only seen 2 or 3 runners, like top tier runners, who were able to do the 3 arrows.
The boomerang also nerfed in this.
Yes,
unfortunately.
In the original, you can use the boomerang to beat Deathel in 1 shot, but the boomerang is significantly nerfed, so it doesn't work like that anymore. Also, Magic Rod also can damage Deathel in this version, but it does significantly less damage. So it's a last resort if you have no arrows.
Oh, I'm glad they added that, because
okay, time.
GG.
Okay.
GG.
1:45:22. All right. A few parts didn't quite go as well as I wanted to, but the most important thing is we survived this run. And yeah, there's quite a number of places where you can lose quite a bit of time and it snowballs, which is why the estimate was really high. But fortunately, we didn't run into too many of those issues, and we had fun with this run, which is the most important part.
All right, any final words from the commentators from MChan that you want to say before we head out?
Yeah. First off, thank you to Sorty TV as well as Zintro for hanging out with me during this run. It was a lot of fun. And then also shoutouts to the Link's Awakening community. If you're interested in running any of the versions of the game, then you can check out my stream. I stream this version as well as LADX quite a bit, and also the community itself the community itself is always willing to help out if you have any questions regarding whichever category that you're learning in any version. Yeah, there's quite a bit of resources between all three versions as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you guys want to say something?
I was just gonna say thank you for letting me commentate. Had a great time.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join. It was fun.
Zintra, would you actually did this run convince you to actually try this game out as a speedrun?
A little bit.
little bit?
I do have a copy of the game.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see Zintra then run LAS.
It probably won't be for a little while, though. There's still a lot of LADX stuff I want to do, but I mean, I'll probably pick up the game sometime.
All right then. Well, that was an amazing run, M-Chan. An amazing bonus game for our event here. I'm so glad we were able to get this met because it's an amazing run. And again, I'm just a huge M-Chan fan, so I like anything that he brings to the table. But with that being said, we're gonna cut over to a brief intermission here, and we're gonna be right back, everybody, with a real hard shift in tone here. We're gonna go from a cute fun game to a horror game right here. We're gonna go to Bendy and the Ink Machine, ran by our very own Statius, and that'll come up right after this, so stay tuned.